What's up, y'all, and welcome to What She Said, Conversations with Dannaya. The title of this episode is Really With the Shifts, okay? And today what we're going to be talking about is the benefit and advantage of being tuned in to the zeitgeist, which is basically the defining mood or spirit of the current time. So when the energy shifts, and this is not about trends, okay? So trends, that is a different area, but this is about realizing when things just in the collective are shifting and being tuned in enough to recognize it quickly and early and create the space to not only determine your space and the footing that you want to gain in it, but creating that advantage for yourself, for your health, for your family, for your business, just for your life period. Because if you don't have that adaptability to be with the shifts, then just like dinosaurs or any other thing, it's going to become extinct. So you have to be adaptable, and you first have to be tuned in and observant enough to recognize when the shifts are happening and determine how you want to create space in that different kind of time and defining mood and the energy, right? So when I talk about being really with the shifts, I talk a lot about soft life, womanhood, and I get the kind of pressing in on like black girl luxury and all of those different things, because as a black woman, I know firsthand the experiences that I've had and the hardening that came with trying to operate in this weird space and how it wasn't a benefit to me or anybody around me. So once I decided to be honest, because I do always say the honor is not in the suffering, the honor is in the honesty. When I decided to be honest and to let all those things fall away, I began to soften up. I began to be more authentic. I began to be more receptive to the environments around me. And that's when I was able to kind of work on fine-tuning the gift of the emotional sensory experience, and being tuned into the environment and, kind of different exchanges and all of those good things. So number one is being tuned in. When I say tuned in, I mean just like a radio station, you turn it, you move it, and you want to be tuned into certain things. Me personally, I'm a forward thinker, so I'm always tuned into what's coming. I talk about in my first book, The Hope Frequency, Power, Purpose, and Freedom from Misplaced Desire, that when I was in a relationship a long time ago, the person I was with wanted to start a business, and I had an idea. I'm like, you should do this. Like, nobody's doing it yet. You should do it. And I feel like I was inspired and I was ready to do what it takes to kind of build that out with this person. But because they were so used to what's familiar, and kind of, I think there's a seduction in nostalgia. Let me go ahead and say that real quick. So there is a seduction in nostalgia, kind of being bound to the past and, the memories, and thinking that everything that's good is behind us. I understand the past. I honor the past. I respect the past. I realize that it's that footing that we've gained that brought us to this place. So obviously there is an honor there. But then also I think there is a seduction in nostalgia, and there's a seduction in everything behind us that keeps us from putting the gas on the things that are going forward. So to go back to the story, he was easily seduced by the things that were familiar to him, the things that were normal, the things that were kind of behind him, instead of being like a forward thinker. And that should have been a signal, but we'll get to that at another time. So he would go back to what was familiar, and I would become like numb, because just because he's not wanting to move like that, I'm still a forward thinker. So naturally my energy wants to go forward. It wants to see things happen. Obviously it would have took a little bit more footwork, a little bit more effort and momentum, because it was such a trailblazing idea. But a couple years later, I see somebody who did the same thing, and I'm like, remember I told you about this? And then it's like shame, because I've been trying to gain this momentum for us to move forward and to build something together, but you don't trust my ability to be tuned in to what's coming, to what's next, not only to what's happening now, but the signals of what's to come. And so I had to build the capacity to trust myself. And it's been an ongoing process, because I don't think I had the resources or tools as a woman, just in different environments and kind of different societal ideals, to trust that ability to be aware of not only the present and how things are affected, but how our world being affected a certain way was going to push us into the future. But now I've gained enough kind of boxes on my checklist to say, remember you said this, boom. Remember this happened, boom. Remember this happened. And I'll give another example. And I know that there are some people who can relate. And so that's why I'm sharing. I want to say like October, November of 2019. I was just living regular. And something was telling me like you need to be more conscious of like your home, your family, health. You need to be more prayerful to kind of protect you, your people, your family, your son, just the things that y'all have. And I wasn't sure why, but again, gaining that muscle of trusting my ability to be tuned in, I realized a couple months later, COVID, right? Well, we started hearing about it and then it started affecting everything. Things started to fall apart. Things started to fall away. Businesses closing. Like the world changed as we knew it. And it was like light bulb. That's what you were tuned into early. And so you were able to use that to your advantage and start to plant the seeds for the future, right? So that's the ability. When I think of soft life, I don't just think of being treated well, being treated soft, being treated like a feminine woman. I also think of being soft enough to be receptive to those subtle and kind of nuanced moments and shifts so that you can use it to your advantage. For a long time as an emotional woman, I thought that my emotional experience was a burden because, I wanted to use it well, but I didn't have the resources or tools or awareness or knowledge or kind of the language to define it. And so it was a burden because I wanted to press it down. I wanted to suppress it and just operate the way the external influences were saying that a woman like me should operate, right? But now, like I said, I got the checklist. I'm like, wait a minute, this happened. And you was very much tuned in. And I could say that for a lot of different things. I would give ideas to people. Just that kind of level of subtle and nuanced influence, I had to start collecting it for myself and realizing how can I use this as a benefit for me, for my child, for my home, for my people, right? So being tuned in is an advantage. Just being able to be aware early, being able to be tuned in early and not being scared of that ability. I remember I got another story, y'all. One time I was dating this guy a real long time ago and we were out somewhere and it was some people that he was cool with. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I'm trying to be cool. I don't know him, but I'm still being like personable and all of that. But something was like, it's not right. So I told him when we got in the car, I'm like, nah, something is not right with this. Like something is not right. Just don't feel right. Now, because it was so early, I wasn't able to put my finger on it exactly because it was a developing knowing. Like intuition, being tuned in sometimes is so subtle that you don't know exactly what it is, but there's something and the knowing is going to develop, but you have to trust it early. And some people have a fear of the unknown. They have a fear of kind of the future and the knowing in the future. So he actually got offended and he was like, oh, you just saying that because this, and this. And I'm like, no, but it's hard to explain in that moment. But I'm like, trust me, it just don't feel right. It's not sitting well with me. Now, fast forward a couple weeks, some issues go down with these same people. And that was the warning. That was the signal. Our emotional experience is not just something to feel. It's a communication tool. It's communicating to us. It's signaling different things to us. And the more you kind of observe and pay attention to it and become more sensitive and open and receptive to those signals, the more you will be able to build that kind of emotional sensory muscle. Now I have built the capacity to trust myself. I'm not second guessing, not to say that I'm perfect or that I know everything, but I'm very much tuned in. I keep my intentions and my environment. I keep my thoughts. I keep certain things a certain level of pure and clear so that I can remain a clear channel, so that I know I'm not polluted or toxic in any way, so that I can know that my eye is right. Because it's like a sense, just like your eye, just like your, physical touch, all of that. It's a sense. And it's communicating to you to let you know what's good for you, what's not, what you need to kind of fall back from a little bit and to be more intentional in your observations. And it's not just for you. It's for your family. It's for your kids. It's for your health. It's for your relationships. It's for your advancement ultimately. And ultimately it's for your fulfillment. Your emotional experience wants to lead you to the most fulfilled version of your life, right? So just building that capacity to trust yourself has been, monumental to me. And just accepting the fact that sometimes people won't see it the way that you see it. They won't know it the way that you know it. They won't feel it the way that you feel it. And building a team and kind of a community where we can kind of be sounding boards to each other, and we can help to kind of cultivate and fine tune each other so that we have a community of, just heightened awareness, heightened fulfillment, because there's less room for shade or hate or confusion or distortion that way, right? So tuned in, that's number one, as it relates to really with the shifts. All right, so the second topic in what she said, conversations with Dannaya, episode really with the shifts, is tried and true. So I gave y'all a couple of examples in the first part where I talked about different scenarios that kind of helped me to sharpen my ability to be tuned in to the different zeitgeist, which is one of my favorite words, y'all. I've been loving that word since college. Shout out to Dr. Robinson at A&T. But zeitgeist, or the defining moods and spirit or energy of the transitions of, different eras or time periods, or, shifts in the culture, shifts in, relationship dynamics, shifts in, just kind of how things are evolving, basically. The new level that we're evolving to, and being aware early, or being, tuned in enough to find your footing. So tried and true is building your muscle, building your with the shifts muscle, right? So being able to, have a certain awareness, and then to determine, how to fine tune it so that it's as clear and as sharp as possible. Now, everybody's kind of perceptive experience is going to be different, because like I said before, your emotional sensory experience is trying to help you find your fulfillment. So it's just like a fingerprint. No two are the same. So how I perceive, what's happening and the steps that I'm going to take in that moment may not be the same as the other person, and that's fine. But as long as you trust yourself, that's why it's so important to trust yourself. You can have a team of advisors or, counsel that you can go to kind of make sure you stay sharp and stay grounded and firm and solid in your energy and your spirit. But at the end of the day, you have to develop that ability to trust yourself, because it's for you, right? If you trust somebody else more than you trust yourself, you're going to find yourself swaying into their lane or moving into their lane, and don't nobody want that, right? I'm one of those people, I don't mind being inspired by somebody, or, seeing somebody like, oh, okay, I like that. And I don't mind people being inspired by me. But when I see you like shifting into my lane and wanting to dress exactly like me, that's a identity crisis for me. And I don't like that type of mindset around me, right? But tried and true is about kind of staying clear enough, staying sharp enough, and intentionally fine-tuning yourself and being observant enough to hold and be settled in the trust that you have for yourself. It's just like any other building of any muscle. When you're working out, if you chill for a little while, you might not be as strong as you are before, but you can figure out what exercises are going to help you to remain more sharp. Another thing that's worked for me to stay tried and true is taking breaks from social media. I have to make sure that I'm not too much influenced by the feed or explore page or what other people are doing. So if I need to take a break to remain grounded and clear and, take some time to myself. And I mentioned to y'all before, taking baths is one of my things too, to stay clear. But tried and true is about staying clear, staying sharp, and figuring out what exercises work for you to maintain your receptivity to the different subtle and nuances. And it might not always be subtle. Sometimes it's a big deal. Sometimes it's a rattling, right? And the connections. I realize that certain connections kind of are a little too frantic. Like they either frantic or draining or whatever it is, and it's not. There's not a peace there. Now, I'm a forward thinker, like I said before, and I'm in the next moment. Like I'm already over there, and I had to learn how to be patient, because impatience comes with always moving into the next space. So remaining grounded. But I also realized that people who operate in different spaces are not always compatible with that type of mindset or that type of emotional experience. And that's fine. It's not personal, it's just purposeful, because I know myself enough to know that I'm going to be going to the forward. So if you always talking about the past and how we connected back there, eventually if we don't have something to look forward to in the future, it's going to fall away, right? And that's why I have to build it out for myself too. Even as it relates to any intimate or personal relationships, I have to maintain my own clear vision, because if not, I'm going to become numb. I'm going to start falling into escapism. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people can relate, because I see it all the time. Escapism, just not really motivated in your space. And that's just not a healthy, that's not a healthy place for me and a lot of people, right? So you always have to remain tried and true to your experience and keep your intentions pure. Make sure you're being honest in the essence of who you are, and you're not chasing things or influenced by things externally, whether consciously or subconsciously. And I think that's one of the best benefits of being really with the shifts, making sure that you stay tried and true, and being able to take some time to reflect and check back and say, hey, this is what was going on. This is what I was seeing or feeling. And how can I kind of sharpen this experience? How can I sharpen my vision? How can I sharpen my experience if I need to, take a break from eating for a while, just to get rid of the physiological chemical change that comes with, the pleasures of all the things that I like to do, taking a break from, smoking if you smoke, drinking, whatever it is, just taking a break so that you can make sure that you're tuned into yourself enough to stay clear and to stay sharp. All right, y'all. So the next topic I want to talk about as it relates to really with the shifts is No Time for Fraud. So I know y'all know the Nicki Minaj song that she released a few years ago. I think this was with the beef with Remy, but beyond that, when she said, I don't do frauds, like I'm a fan of that. So I know nobody's perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I would never want that to be my expectation from anybody else, because that's just not the reality as long as we are on earth. You get what I mean? But flawed, yes, but fraud, and when I say fraud, I mean like intentional deception, just intentional kind of manipulation, or there's a word that my company was using, the company that I work with. What was it? It was like steering, intentional steering, like trying to direct my road and my path from your perception of who I am. Those type of things, like really, I just cannot do. And I see a lot of people talk about like giving people chances and all of that, and I understand it, but when I bring something to your awareness that I'm telling you, like, I don't like that, like, don't do that. And with that revelation, you like, oh, okay, I wasn't even realizing it was like that, because sometimes people don't know, like you don't know until you know. And I know that's the same for myself. But as I make you aware, if you're still doing it and I realize that that's something that's like settled in you, is set in you, I'm going to have to cut it, because it's going to affect me negatively. You know what I mean? So having deceptive or kind of dark, or I don't know, just like grimy energy or intentions, or just like character traits or personality traits, that's something that once realized and kind of addressed and is still showing itself, has to be cut off, just because it keeps me from being clear. And one thing about it, like Beyonce said, you interrupted my grinding. Like I said, I'm moving. I'm an active person, whether it's family life and sports, or whether it's business, or whether it's, social life, or whether it's learning new things, or whether it's traveling. If in my mind, I feel like you playing in my head, I'm going to cut it immediately, because that is the worst type of kind of abuse, right? Somebody playing in your head, trying to steer you a certain way, not operating in truth and transparency, just being deceptive, withholding, different things for, odd reasons. I just don't play like that. you playing in my head is like playing in my subconscious. You get what I'm saying? If you know that I'm not aware of something, or I'm not totally conscious of something, and you use that to your advantage, that's a weirdo. That's a pervert, like a mental pervert. And I just don't do that because I know myself, and I've been done knocked your head off. And I know y'all can relate. Like, I just, intimate, personal, just, I don't know. I just think it's weird to do that. Even as I'm raising my child, I'm honest. Like, I'm just going to tell the truth and be a straight shooter, because I've seen other people as I, was growing up, and friends, and how their parents were with them and how it affected them. Because once everything comes to the light and you realize this person was playing in your head, that's a trust issue. You get what I'm saying? And I want to be able to live my life and do my things, and, have a meeting over here or do this, and have a team around me that I can trust, that we all operating in light, that we're not, doing no shady deals or no, backstabbing type thing. Now, I understand as you live, you learn, and certain things, like I said, as you moving and grooving, certain things are just going to present themselves and disappointment will come. But as soon as I see it, it's got to get cut off, because there's too much at stake for me. There's too much at stake for me and my health. There's too much at stake with me for my household, my child, my family, the vision that I have and the purpose that I am kind of expressing and walking out. In my time here, time is limited. I don't like to play with it. I don't like playing games. Like, I don't want to do that. So put it all on the table. And whether you know or not, if you do something that consciously or subconsciously, just doesn't sit well with me, I'm going to go ahead and address it, because I need to put it all on the table so we can continue to move forward. And if you expose that, that's just something that's in you, that's a dis-ease that's in you, then, it just got to be cut off, and that's just it. All right, y'all. So the final topic with the shifts in this episode is going to be walking it out. So walk it out, it sounds easy, right? Like, just walk it out. But what I've realized is that a lot of people are scared to walk it out. A lot of people are scared to walk into their future, into the unknown, without relying and being dependent on like external validation, external influence, external kind of structure and support. Not necessarily saying that you won't have any in your walk, but just being able to trust yourself, because this is your own individual and unique space, right? So everybody wants to be different, but they don't want to be different in the realizing what it will take from them, what it will take for them to be the truest and most authentic version of themselves, and to explore the fullness of themselves, right? And your emotional sensory experience is truly just that, exploring the fullness of who you are, your unique identity in this lifetime, right? And so I can say for myself, within the last couple years, I've been exploring myself, exploring my creativity, what I like, what I don't like, maximizing my self-awareness, kind of fine-tuning and tweaking certain things, like, oh, I don't like that, or that's not really me, that's just an unhealed version of me, so how do I heal that? I will go inside in the house, and when I say in the house, meaning I won't be as active as I normally am. I'll go sit down and be self-reflective and insightful, and kind of fine-tune and comb through different things that I'm experiencing, and then I'll start to pop back out and present myself, and then I allow the kind of external world to reflect back to me where I am, right? How I'm responding, what I'm attracting, what's going on in my world. But I realize a lot of people are scared of it. Either a lot of people don't know. They don't know that your emotional sensory experience is actually there for you to, become the best version of your unique self. Or if they realize that the effort that it's going to take, the truth that it's going to take, the healing that it's going to take, and a lot of times, if I'm being quite honest, the losses that you're going to take, because you have kind of created a world with a false version of who you are. And if you start to be honest, you're going to lose relationships, you're going to lose friendships, you're going to lose opportunities. Certain things are just going to start falling away from you. And you're like, hold up, you're going to feel exposed, you're going to feel raw, you're going to feel vulnerable. But ultimately, it's there to expose you and to help you to become sensitive to the true and most alive version of who you are. And, that's what you got to walk out. Walk out in a vulnerable state of authenticity. Authenticity is a vulnerable state, because with authenticity comes transparency. With transparency comes offense. There comes, it's such a full and kind of complex experience, but it's a very rewarding and satisfying experience, if I do say so myself. And just get into the other side of it, to the point where you can just be, right? And your being is going to affect people around you, because it's going to naturally draw in those people who, whether conscious of it or not, are wanting to move in those same spaces. You know what I mean? And so I love it, actually, if I'm being quite honest. But walking it out is walking into the unknown. And I think that's why a lot of people tie themselves to the past. You know what I mean? They act like they're in love with the past, but really it's a fear, if you take the mask off. And, walking into the unknown, into the future, like stepping foot into the future and letting your world create itself as you walk forward, as you walk it out. It's inspiring. It's exciting. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But, it's a part of the fullness of the human experience. And so having the faith, having the trust, having the courage, and having the braveness to walk it out, to stretch your emotional sensory experience, to be honest about what you like, what you don't like, what's good, just what's not for you, what is for you, learning and growing and stretching beyond until you find your feel, until you find your feelness. And it's in that space that you kind of do a little dance with yourself, and you realize that that's what it was all for, right? That's what it was all for. And you're good to go. So, walk it out, y'all. So we talked about being really with the shifts, tuning into the zeitgeist and kind of like the different movement in the atmosphere, in the collective, in the culture, in the family, in the home, in the body. We talked about no frauds, making sure that you stay clear of any kind of manipulations that are not true, that are not real, that are not honorable. We talked about tried and true, building the capacity to trust and develop yourself enough to, have some measure of stability in your walk. And then ultimately, you got to walk it out. Walking it out. Yeah, I love that. So this is going to be the final episode of What She Said, Conversations with She Dannaya for this season. I'm working on a lot of things right now. It's a really exciting and kind of vibrant time for me, and I don't want to, just try to push out something just to be pushing it out. So, as we navigate into this new spring season, please go back and listen to past episodes from previous seasons. Please, if you haven't already, get my book, The Hope Frequency, Power, Purpose, and Freedom from Misplaced Desire. If you don't know, I am a big proponent of emotional intelligence. Growing from a very strong and potent emotional, girl, and not having the space and the courage and the resources and the tools to utilize my power for my benefit and the benefit of those around me, and then realizing that there is an intelligence that is, inside of emotion, and it's actually very conscious and deliberate and working for us to move us forward. It's a big deal to me, and that's what I'm all about sharing for, individuals, for women, for Black women especially, just because that's where my heart is. As a Black woman, I didn't have the space. I went to church, I didn't have the space. I went to school, I didn't have the space. I didn't have the space in my home. I didn't have the space in myself. I didn't have the space in books. And so it's important to me, especially for Black women, but just women, for people, for children, for industries. When we talk about emotional intelligence, as I was doing research, it was all about like negotiation and, profit and all of that, which is fine. It has its place. But what about the person at the grocery store who is thinking about committing suicide because emotionally they're suffering trying to do the right thing from check boxes that were given outside of them? Or the child in school who was dealing with, a lot of very strong and impulsive emotion, how to use the tools to navigate their experience for their benefit. Emotional intelligence is bigger than me. It's bigger than relationships. It's bigger than, your professional space. It's a collective intelligence, right? It's moving all of us forward. It's always present, and we have to kind of shine light on that. So be looking forward to some new things that I have coming up. Thank you for tuning in to What She Said Conversations with Dannaya. Really with the shifts. Trust yourself. Trust yourself and trust the journey, baby, because it's all working for your good. Till next time.